everyone. Doc T here with another episode of the Horse Advocate podcast. Thank you for joining me. I like to bring news usually that's either inspiring, uplifting, thought-provoking, but in total, trying to make people feel better about owning horses. But I keep getting thrown in my face data that comes to me that says that we as horse people, horse owners, horse caregivers, need to really start worrying. I've been saying this for a long time. I think it's going to be getting worse in the next 10 years. Now, we don't have to talk about the economy. We don't have to talk about politics. We're just going to talk about an article that just came to the AVMA News, American Veterinary Medical Association, and it's titled, "No Dire Shortage of Veterinarians Anticipated in the Coming Years," is written on October 4th of 2024 and updated on the 9th. So the subtitle says, "Report shows that demand for veterinary services adjusting after COVID bump." I can't believe they call it a COVID bump. Anyway, and more veterinary colleges opening will result in no shortage or excess capacity. So this whole article basically is about the small animal veterinarian, the pet, the companion animal, those who are taking care of our dogs and cats. Nowhere in this article do they discuss equine veterinarians, but I've been suggesting that we have a crisis in the veterinary field as far as equine veterinarians go, that we're getting fewer and fewer people coming into the field. But it's a little bit worse. Let me go over what's in this. I'm shaking my head. I mean, if you're not watching me, I'm shaking my head because the report by this consulting firm provided an overview that said, quote, "Forecasting supply and demand indicators for U.S. veterinarians 2024 to 2035. They talk about how many vets are going to be produced in the next 10 years. And it's mind-blowing because there are 13 proposed veterinary schools becoming accredited, and there are 33 veterinary colleges currently recognized, and this would nearly have a 40% increase over the next 10 years. So not only are we getting more vet schools, we're getting more people into each class. And I don't think it's sustainable. They said that during the Great Recession of 2007 to 2009, I love that, the Great Recession. I thought that was the Great Depression. So I guess it's the Great Depression. Household budgets tightened as a result. There was a perceived surplus of veterinarians and a soft labor market reflected by the decline of job offers for new veterinary graduates. So everyone back then was worried. But then they said the COVID-19 pandemic, the government introduced $5 trillion in stimulus money, and that drove everyone out to buy dogs and cats and get vet care for it. So now all of a sudden, everyone's going to these veterinary clinics to get care. And I talked to my veterinary colleagues, and they all said that during COVID, business had never been better. So I find that fascinating because did the horses get sicker? Did our dogs and cats get sicker? Or did the people just had more money and decided to do preventive care? It's, to me, as a veterinarian who started in a time where veterinarians were revered for their expertise and for their care and for their high work ethic, we now find that veterinarians in every article I read from the AVMA are all concerned about work-life balance and making enough money to make ends meet and pay back their student loans. And this article is all about, I don't know, just supply and demand. And this article says that we're going to have a good supply. There was another article in here, or another survey done by Mars Company. And Mars is just a huge, huge company that has, 3,000 veterinary clinics worldwide. It says the nation will need as many as 55,000 additional veterinarians by 2030 to meet the increasing need for companion animals' health care. Well, if you read between the lines, they're basically saying that they need 2 to 3 new veterinarians where one would work. In other words, the vet comes in and they want to have time off. The vet, you know, so to cover, they need more veterinarians. So I guess that's okay. I just don't think it's sustainable because that doubles or triples the amount of money a veterinary clinic has to make. So the prices just keep going up. The funny thing, funny may not be the right word, but they said this projection, okay, the forecasted and projected numbers of new graduates are based on an estimate that all schools will start with class sizes of 100 and grow at the annual rate of 2%. I mean, when I went to vet school, there was 80 of us, and there was only, I don't know, I lose count, 20 vet schools. I mean, the number of vets graduating was pretty limited. It was a pretty exclusive profession. And now they're taking everybody in and growing. There's two schools, one in Tennessee and one that's going to be opening up here in Florida. What are their names? Lincoln Memorial. And they are now staggering. So they have a class that starts in the fall and then another class that starts 6 months later. So they are doubling the number of people coming through by condensing and running simultaneously, or not simultaneously, but they're integrating a second class, or what they call a second cohort, which is amazing. But let me read on here. This projection of the 100 class size of 100 with a growth rate of 2% includes the assumption that the portion of new veterinary graduates entering companion animal medicine will climb to 80%. So that means 20% are left for food animal, for zoo, for aquatic, and of course, for horses. And we know that the number of horse vets is decreasing because most people are having a trouble finding the resources to care for the horses. So here's the list of the 13 veterinary colleges at various stages of pursuing what do they call accreditation by the American Veterinary Medical Association. Let's see. 3 new schools are currently admitting students: Texas Tech in Lubbock, Texas, Long Island University in Brookville, New York. So now New York has 2 veterinary colleges, and the Ana G. Mendez University in Gurabo, Puerto Rico. Also, Lincoln Memorial University in Tennessee added a second cohort of 100 students in January and will continue to matriculate, will continue to matriculate 100 students each January, in addition to enrolling 125 students each August. I mean, it's crazy. They're just packing them in. It's just a money-making machine for these people. And the 13 that are coming in are Arkansas State University, Chamberlain University in Stockbridge, Georgia, Clemson University in South Carolina, Hanover College in Indiana, Lincoln Memorial in Orange Park, Florida, that's outside of Jacksonville, Lyon College in Batesville, Arkansas, Midwestern University in Downers Grove, Illinois, Murray State University in Murray, Kentucky, Rowan University in Malika Hill, New Jersey, Utah State University in Logan, Utah, University of Maryland Eastern Shore in Princess Anne, Maryland, Rocky Vista College in Billings, Montana, and St. Matthew's University in the Cayman Islands. So every one of these are going to be putting in 100 new students every year. That's a ton of students, and they just keep growing. So what does that mean for us as horse owners? Well, it seems like my profession is splitting apart. It's splitting into small animal and other. And in the small animal, they're all talking about work-life balance. They want to have a community of veterinarians that are enjoying life, that it's just a regular, it's nothing more than a technical job. And to make it worse, Colorado, the state of Colorado, is voting this fall to allow non-veterinarians to become mid-level veterinary technicians. So they're going to have more power than your licensed animal health technicians, not as much power as a veterinarian. It's like a nurse practitioner, I guess, or what's the other level in there of physicians assistants that are going to be able to diagnose and treat without a veterinary license. And this has the veterinary profession freaking out. Because if we're dumping all these veterinarians into the system, and then a state will add a whole layer of non-veterinarians who can go through a basic course and go out and do maybe spays and neuters and other types of veterinary care without having a degree, it's diluting the practice to virtually anybody. So when you call somebody out to your farm to have them work on your horse, if this mid-level people come out, they may be good at what they're doing, but there's no guarantee and there's no recourse for you should something happen. Now, I know this has been going on with farriery, dentistry, body workers, and other therapists out there, chiropractors who are not licensed veterinarian. They're coming in this middle field already, and it's diluted out what a veterinarian can take care of on your horse. So you have a person who's gone to college and then gone on for further training of 4 years, possibly with internships and residencies after that, coming out trying to give your horse the best care possible. And it's now going to be diluted because now anybody can come out and work on your horse, which again, I've been arguing, just because you have a veterinary degree doesn't mean that you know everything about the horse. And I say this because veterinarians have been overwhelmed with information for so long. They come to your farm knowing a lot of technology, i.e., they can draw blood and analyze that. They can use machines from digital x-rays to digital ultrasounds to now we can have standing MRIs, CAT scans, nuclear scintigraphy. There's a lot of information, and I think the profession is getting bogged down. I see it in dentistry where board certified veterinarians in equine dentistry are promoting extraction of teeth when I don't believe it's been proven in science that should be done. They don't know. Most veterinarians work on horses, don't know how to work on them using horsemanship. They just want to drug them and before they go ahead and do something that's simple or basic. It's a crazy time. I guess that's what I'm trying to tell you. Veterinary medicine is at a crazy point in time where you as a horse owner are no longer important, other than you continue to call a veterinarian, spend money with them. And I don't have an answer. I wish I could make a podcast where I can say, okay, here's the answer. This will help you. But I find that the only thing I can say to you is learn how to take care of the horse yourself. Go back to a time where there were no veterinarians and you had to care for your horse for the basic things and prevent injuries and prevent disease. And, here at the Horse Advocate, that's what I've been teaching. I mean, you guys tune in and you learn about nutrition from me, but you got to understand at the web site, thehorsesadvocate.com, I've got basic things on fences, on gates, on, for instance, casting rails, how to prevent your horse from casting if your horse is predisposed to that, so they can right themselves without you having to be there. Or if you do get in there, how do you right a horse safely so you don't get injured? How do you tie a horse up correctly? I'll never forget, this person tied their horses up for me to work on out in a field. And I'm working on one horse and the other horse freaked out and pulled half the fence down because we didn't know, or the person didn't know anything about a quick release knot. I talk about how gates work, how to make them work better, how to get better drainage flow or airflow, or how to care for manure piles. There's so many aspects of owning a horse that it can become easy. But I find that nobody's interested in looking at the details. They just want the glitter, the fancy things. They want to sell you supplements because all they have to do is sit someplace and create these supplements, advertise them, and then sell them. It's a great business model for making money, but it's not in the best interest of your horse. So I come to you through these podcasts trying to show you that the writing is on the wall. The AVMA has been talking about it. The AAP is talking about it. The American Association of Equine Practitioners, they're going to have their meeting this year in Orlando. I'll attend. But I find that there's so much in there that's not beneficial to you, the horse owner. I'm seeing more and more veterinarians come out with podcasts, non-veterinarians too, trying to get information across. And it's a smorgasbord. I don't know where you go to get valid stuff that helps your horse. So this is an eclectic podcast I put together based on one article that I saw, but it's just the I won't say the tip of the iceberg, but it's just one of those things that they're spending a lot of time discussing and very little. In fact, the latest journal came to me and there were zero, I mean, none articles about horses in it. It just blew my mind. Here's the equine veterinary education from August of 2024. I'm a little bit behind, but I look at some of their articles in here, and they have colic signs caused by unilateral abdominal seminoma in a Frisian stallion. So that's one. It's a case report. Intraluminal administration of carboxyl methyl starch powder for bladder hemorrhage treatment in 2 adult horses. In other words, it's another case study. Indirect inguinal herniation of the urinary bladder in a Shetland pony foal. A concurrent streptococcus equi subspecies equi infection, purpura hemorrhagica, and immune-mediated myositis in a quarter horse filly. Again, this is a case report. And this one really rings true because when I was a student in 1984, I had to give my senior seminar on immune-mediated membranoproliferative glomerulonephritis secondary to strep equi, which is a strangles infection that caused a horse to have renal failure. So here we are, another case report of immune-mediated myositis, in this case, from a strep infection. But nobody's teaching us how to get an immune system that works better. Let's keep going. Increased body condition score has a detrimental effect on arterial oxygen tension and increase the risk of hypoxemia in anesthetized horses. So in other words, fat horses have trouble getting gas for anesthesia. Well, that's true in humans. We've known that forever. So this is great. It tells people who pass anesthetic gases to horses how to, what considerations you have to do. But why can't we as horse owners eliminate obese horses so that if they do have to go in for surgery, we aren't going to have this problem? That's where I am at. I want your horses to become healthy. Increase radiopharmaceutical uptake in skeletal muscle in 26 flat racing and endurance horses in 2017 to 2021. This is interesting. The objective is to describe and document the distribution of increased radiopharmaceutical uptake in skeletal muscles in horses in a population of flat racing and endurance horses. Well, keep in mind that you have 26 horses, 17 endurance and 9 race horses. 26 horses. How do you get any? I mean, to me, the number of horses here really isn't going to help. I mean, it's a start, but I guess it basically shows an avenue that they can work on a little bit more. But scintigraphy really isn't helpful, I think. It kind of tells you a general area that's occurring, but doesn't dig down deep. Let's see what else we have. Barefoot methodology as a viable farrier option. This is interesting. The equine foot evolved to provide an effective interface between the distal limb and ground for weight bearing. Blah, blah, blah. Sorry. I mean, Stephen O'Grady, he's been around forever, and Hillary Clayton also has too. And these, and they're going over the basics, and they have to, because not everybody has helped. Interestingly, here's the article, but right next to it is a full page advertisement for Footwise. Brittle hooves, chronic cracks and lost shoes, hoof regrowth, hoof problems, regular stringing, blah, blah, blah. The necessary nutrients to support proper hoof growth are not included in the feeding program. What? Wet and muddy environmental conditions are persistent. Okay, got it. So they're saying the Kentucky Performance products have this foot wise that will help you if you don't have the proper nutrients in. So why not put the proper nutrients in for hoof growth? I mean, that's the biggest question. Why are we supplementing with this when we should be looking and understand why they're not having proper hoof growth? And of course, as usual, they don't list their ingredients. Supplements and grain companies are getting further and further away of putting their ingredients on because they realize that the ingredients are inflammatory and don't help the horse. This whole article is basically about barefoot trimming, the benefits of being barefoot, and using, providing traction, blah, blah, blah. So it's fascinating. I've always said that you have to feed the hoof if you want a great hoof. You have to feed the hoof. So as I look at these subtitles, we have weighing the options, and they're talking about the primary intent of this paper is to describe a consistently successful method to transition a horse from being shod to remaining barefoot using a simple and easy method of shaping the hoof foot in accordance with the basic farriery principles of trimming. Where's the let's feed the horse so they have good quality hooves? It says, in equine practice, a permanent or temporary transition to barefoot should be considered for horses that have good quality hooves and are not required to perform a large amount of exercise on abrasive surfaces. But again, nothing about feeding the horse or what should help build a better foot. They just talk about trimming it, which is so common in veterinary medicine. They're not looking at the prevention, they're just looking at how to fix things. Then, of course, we have a full page ad for there's more to equine dentistry. And they talk about clinical equine hypsodont anatomy and intro to equine occlusal equilibration. And there's no science behind this, none at all. There's just no science about equilibration. And yet, my anecdotal evidence that I have of doing horses for so long tells me that you just have to remove the pain. That's the number one thing. Okay, here's another one. A case image, comparative imaging of septic navicular osteomyelitis caused by a solar penetration injury in a 15-day-old Shire foal. Again, this is just a case report of one horse, which are important. Case reports are phenomenal because you can take one horse and say, okay, this is what happened. This is what we did to fix it, which might help if it ever happens in your practice. Should radiographs of the thoracolumbar spine remain part of the pre-purchase examination? And that's fascinating because they're looking for kissing spine. And you've heard me talk about kissing spine in horses and how radiographic changes are common. And I'm going to get to the results. Conclusion: pre-purchase examinations are performed by many equine clinicians all over the world. The most important aspect of assessing the current physical condition of a horse, okay, blah, blah, blah. The latter statement thoroughly summarizes what every equine practitioner should bear in mind. Do these radiograph abnormalities indicate concurrent disease? Well, I've been saying that forever. Just because you can see it doesn't mean it's a problem. So, veterinary medicine is an art form. There's no doubt about it. And we're trying to plug up all that we don't know with case reports that, hey, this happened over here. Hey, this happened over here. But we're all coming from either a silo, meaning we only know what we know, or we're coming from a fix-it problem. Here's what happened to this horse. This is how we fixed it. Here's what happened to another horse. This is how we fixed it. But I don't see articles in there in prevention. Yes, they say, hey, let's take the shoes off of some of these horses and let them go barefoot. And these are the considerations. Brilliant article and should be said. But nowhere in there saying, hey, we've got to refeed this hoof, and it may take 2 years of really good nutritional care to get a hoof that's strong enough to avoid all these problems. So I guess I'm done talking about this. You've heard me say it before, and I'll probably say it again. We as horse owners need to step up. We need to learn how to care for our horses. We need to learn how to avoid problems. And it's not just through nutrition, and it's not just through dentistry care, but it's also preventing injuries on our farms and making sure that the horses have a good, solid environment to live in so they don't fall prey to chronic stress, such as wind blowing in the middle of winter, or not enough airflow coming in during the summer, or you have a latch system that at one point the horse goes through a little bit too fast and gouges his side, makes him lame. You know, there are so many things, and I'd like to start looking at these things. And some of the topics I'll be covering for the next, I don't know, 12 months is I'm going to take things out of the horse's advocate and a topic and go into it in depth. We're going to talk about manure and hauling it away and what kind of systems we can use and what would be a better way to clear manure out, or how to give water to a horse. What are some of the things that I've seen and people do for bringing water? So as much as I encourage you to understand that most of the problems that are occurring in horses is through nutrition, I'm also warning you that in the future, the number of veterinarians that are going to be available to you in the rural area is going to diminish because there's not enough volume of work in those areas to support a veterinarian coming out and caring for you. Or it's not going to be there on demand. Maybe once a week or every other week that vet can get out there. I know it's true in my practice. Long ago when I was doing everything, I would go to northern New York, right up to the Canadian border, and I offered on any Thursday with an even number, I would drive up there and provide care. So it's like a couple of times a month, I go up there and do pre-purchase and lameness exams and castrations and everything. And people just had to wait until I was there because they couldn't get a vet in northern New York in the 1980s, early 1990s. And it's just going to get worse in the future. So I beg all of you who are into learning to dig deep and learn as much as you can. That's why I'm here at the Horse Advocate podcast. That's why I'm live every other Thursday night to members of the Horses Advocate, where you can come and enjoy talking with me, asking questions, getting answers, or getting a direction to go in, or hanging around at another point in time and watching the replays. All right, I'm going to be heading back to work tomorrow. We made it through Hurricane Milton down here. We had tornadoes touch down everywhere around us. Lots of damage. People actually lost lives. They certainly lost damage to property. And it's quite scary because there's nothing that is more of a feeling of helplessness than to know that there are tornadoes touching all around you and you don't know if one's going to touch on top of your house. But that's me living in Florida. That's just the way it is. But it's time to get back to work and get things done. So thanks for being with me now. I hope your farms are doing okay, that Milton and Helene didn't bother you too much. And if it did, that you're on the rebound and that people are there to help you. I know the AAP has offered help, not just to horse owners, but to veterinarians out there who need some supplies. So there's help out there. Anyway, I'm here to help you during the times where it's hard to get a veterinarian. That's my purpose today. Thanks for joining me. This is Doc T. Bye. Hey everyone, Doc T here. Thank you for listening to my content. Would you do me a huge favor? Would you please subscribe, comment, like, thumbs up, and give a star review? However it's presented to you, I want you to do that. There's two reasons. The first, of course, is to improve this product. This way I know what you like, what you don't like, what I can improve upon, what topics you want me to cover. But more importantly, it's also going to help others find me. And by doing that, you are now engaged in this mission of helping horses thrive in a human world. By you helping, we can reach others. And that I would be so grateful for. And remember, go to thehorsesadvocate.com for updates on this information. Thehorsesadvocate.com. And again, thank you so much for being here. Doc T out.